Hey there. Ever feel like there are these invisible forces kind of pushing and pulling on your life and your wallet? Well, there are, and they're called economics. So for the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain and give you the essential toolkit to understand how the world really works.
So let's start with a weird one. What could possibly connect a slice of pizza, a diamond ring, and the entire US government? I know, it sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, but the answer is actually the single most important idea in all of economics. It explains pretty much everything.
See, it all boils down to one single fundamental problem, an idea so powerful it shapes your dinner choices, my job, and even how countries go to war.
And that idea is scarcity. It's really simple when you think about it. We as humans have unlimited wants. We always want more, better, newer stuff. But we live on a planet with limited resources. There just isn't enough stuff for everyone to have everything they want all the time. And that one simple fact, well, that's the engine that drives all of economics.
Because of scarcity, every single society, whether it's a tiny town or a giant country, has to answer three basic questions. What are we going to produce with our limited stuff? How are we going to make it? And maybe the most important one, who gets to have all the stuff once we've made it? The way a society answers these questions, that defines everything about it.
Okay, so that's the 30,000-foot view. But scarcity isn't just for governments and nations. It affects you, personally, every single day. So let's zoom in on how you deal with it.
Every time you make a choice, you're dealing with two key ideas: trade-offs and opportunity cost. They sound kind of the same, but there's a huge difference. All right, imagine you buy a new video game. The trade-off is everything else you could have spent that money on. Going to the movies, buying a new pair of shoes, saving it, all of it. But the opportunity cost, that's just the next best thing on that list. If seeing that movie was your number 2 choice right after the game, then that movie is your opportunity cost. It's the ghost of the choice you didn't make. So how do you decide when to stop doing something? Well, that brings us to a concept that sounds super complicated, but I promise you already get it. It's called diminishing marginal utility. You know how that first slice of pizza is just magnificent, the best thing ever. But by the 6th slice, not so much. Each extra unit of something gives you a little less satisfaction, or utility, than the one before it. It's why you don't spend your entire paycheck on gummy bears, even if you love them. Now, that little calculation you do in your head, how much pizza you want for a certain price, that's what economists call demand. Multiply that by millions of us, and it's a massive force. It runs headfirst into another force, supply. That's the pizza shop deciding how many slices they're willing to make. And where those two forces meet, boom, you get market equilibrium. It's that magic sweet spot, the price where the number of slices people want to buy is a perfect match for the number of slices the shops want to sell.
Okay, let's zoom back out again. All of our individual little choices in these market meetups, they're all happening inside a much bigger system. So let's take a look at the rules of the game.
At its heart, the economy is just one giant continuous loop. It's called the circular flow. Think of it like this. You go to work providing your labor to a business. That happens in what's called the factor market. In exchange, they pay you, right? Then you take that money to the product market to buy stuff, groceries, a phone, whatever. That money then flows right back to the businesses, which they use to pay you again, and the whole thing just keeps on spinning.
Now, societies have come up with different ways to organize this whole flow. You basically have 3 main flavors. In a traditional economy, the answers to the big 3 questions are just because that's how we've always done it. It's super stable, but nothing ever changes. Then you've got a command economy, where the government makes all the decisions. This is great for changing things fast, but you lose a lot of freedom. And then there's a market economy, where the free choices of buyers and sellers answer the questions. You get tons of cool stuff and innovation, but man, it can be a roller coaster. The truth is, most countries these days are some kind of mix of all 3.
In a market-based system like we have in the US, there's this really powerful idea called consumer sovereignty. And it basically means you're the boss. Seriously, every single dollar you spend is like a vote telling businesses what you want more of. When millions of us vote for a certain kind of phone, guess what? They make more of them. When we stop buying something, it disappears. Your choices are literally driving the entire system.
But a totally free market can get a little wild, a little chaotic. So what happens when the government decides to step onto the field? Well, they try to act like a referee, keeping the game fair and making sure it doesn't spin out of control.
And to do that, the government has 2 main toolkits. First, you've got fiscal policy. This is the one politicians control, Congress and the president. They use it to decide how much to tax us and what to spend that money on, like roads or schools. Then you have monetary policy. This is run by the central bank, the Federal Reserve. They're in charge of the money supply and interest rates, and they use those tools to either hit the gas or the brakes on the economy.
So with all this going on, you're buying stuff, businesses are selling stuff, the government's refereeing. How do we even know if the economy is doing well? How do we keep score in this massive game?
Well, the main scoreboard is something called Gross Domestic Product, or GDP. It's just a giant number that adds up the total value of every single brand new, finished thing made inside a country's borders in a year. It's the country's economic report card. So when you hear on the news that the economy is growing, they just mean the GDP number went up.
But here's the thing, that growth is never a perfect straight line. The economy naturally moves in waves. We call it the business cycle. It grows for a while, that's an expansion. It hits a high point, called a peak, then it starts to shrink, which is a recession. It bottoms out at a trough, and then hopefully starts growing all over again. This up and down, it's just a normal part of how a market economy works.
One of the biggest things we watch during these cycles is unemployment. But it's super important to know that not all unemployment is the same. There are 5 main kinds. You've got frictional, that's just you being between jobs. Normal. Structural is tougher, that's when your skills don't fit the jobs that are out there. Seasonal is obvious, like a lifeguard in winter. Technological is when a robot takes your job. And then there's cyclical. So, looking at that list, which one do you think is the really, really bad one? The one that sends up red flags for the whole economy?
Yep, it's cyclical. The other kinds are often just a sign of a healthy, dynamic economy that's changing. But cyclical unemployment means the whole system is sick. It means people who are qualified and want to work just can't find a job, simply because the entire economy is in a downturn. It's not about one person or one industry. It's a sign that everyone is struggling.
So there you have it. Scarcity, choice, supply and demand, GDP. These are the basic rules of the economic game that we are all playing every single day. But, once you understand the rules, it leads to a much bigger question. Is the game itself fair? And who even gets to decide what fair means? Economics can give us the tools to analyze how the game is played, but it's up to all of us to decide how we want to play it.